Hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed that first episode of the van build, installing those windows. So now what we're gonna get to is the subfloor. So that's gonna be a bit of a process because this van wasn't in the greatest shape, at least floor-wise, when I purchased it. So we gotta do a little bit of work and then we can start structuring out that subfloor. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. And again, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments below and I'll get right back to you.
Hey everyone, if you've been following my journey, you know I've had a taste of van life before. It was amazing, but my old van's condition forced me to sell it and head back to Hawaii. I started working hard, saving every penny for my next big adventure. And guess what? The wait is over. I bought a 2017 Ford Transit in Salt Lake City, Utah, and took an epic cross-country road trip to Maine with my dad to build it out myself. This van build has been an absolute blast, and I can't wait to hit the road. But that's not all. Just like last time, van life won't stop my international travels. I'm gearing up to balance life on wheels with exploring the globe, because there's just too much out there to see. I'm thrilled to bring you along on yet another incredible adventure. Stay tuned and enjoy the ride.
Alrighty, so we got the van here, and when I said let's get to work, I meant it. Yesterday we got here, woke up this morning and immediately gonna get going. So first, I'm gonna rip out just all this stuff for the little step ups on each door side. And I'll take you with me one second. I'll show you. So this used to be a moving van back in Utah. And so it kind of got beat up a little bit in certain spots. Like there's a big dent here. We're gonna work with that in a little while, but you got some rust going on down here. So what I'm gonna do, rip all this out, and then I got a grinder. I'm gonna grind it down, put a primer on it, paint it, leave it for a sec, and it doesn't need to be pretty because it's going under everything, but I want to stop that rust. It's just surface rust, but you know, years down the road it could become more. So we're gonna try to stop that, and that'll be the first step. All right, so ripping up that carpet, I saw the floors beat up a little bit more than I had expected. So I'm definitely gonna have to prep the whole floor. But what I'm a little nervous about, talk with my dad and just kind of figure things out. I knew I had to deal with this dent, which we're gonna have to deal with it. That's just how it is, I knew that. The floor has some dents as well. I don't know if you can see it right here and right there goes down. Right there goes up. Right behind it goes down just a little bit. So it's gonna be a little hard to get the subfloor to be level. But the more I look at it, actually, I think it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Just gonna have to fill that gap a little bit. So figure that out, but right now it's time to prep the floor. So it's really not bad. It's just surface stuff. I think like right here is the worst, but we'll be all right. So it's time to get started. Alrighty, so yeah, I did get everything out. I know I showed you this, but we just took out the step-ups on both sides. So this has two doors. I'm thinking I'm gonna permanently close this one and just make it so it doesn't open anymore, and that's the one I'm gonna use, but we'll figure that out later. But yeah, so what I need to do, I need to grind this down with what I have is it's a grinder, so it's gonna take out, it shouldn't take out too much metal. I'm only gonna go down to the rust, and then I have one to polish as well. Gonna use a automotive primer and cover it with white. Probably gonna have to buy more white just because there's more than I thought. It does go up to here. And so up there, I actually have a brush attachment for the drill that I'm gonna go use for the finer bits. Just get that loose paint off. But the real work's gonna be
right here in this section. So we'll take it down with this guy, work down a little bit, clean this all up, and just kind of get it all prepared for the subfloor, just because I don't want any rust kind of just sitting there. So work on that for a little bit. Okay, so bit of update. Where is it? There it is. The grinder wore down really quick. I gotta use the edge. See, like, it was flat. I have to use the edge to get into all these nooks and crannies, and it wore it down real quick. It was doing it perfectly, but it needs to last longer. This thing costs like $11. So if I were using this the whole time, I'd probably spend at least, I don't know, $300 just on these, maybe even more, because I only got that little piece. So I'm gonna hand brush as much as I can with it. I have another thing, but I think it's gonna take out metal. So we're gonna just play around, figure out the best thing for it. But for now, I'm gonna wire brush, so a lot of labor. Alright, so I found that this little guy, it's a wire brush, has been the best option so far. So thinking like, let's see. It's really been able to get me down to the metal. So I think I'm gonna have to just do that. Back's already sore and I've only done a little corner, so this is gonna be a killer, but gotta do what you gotta do.
Many unbearable hours later.
Okay, so floor is pretty much all prepped, but I got these holes. So just, I know this is rusty. This line is where I'm gonna end my flooring. I'm gonna make a little custom cover for this, so I haven't touched this just yet. But basically, we do have little holes in the floor, like there's some in this one, but I'm gonna focus more over here where we have some, like, there's some right here, right there. I'm gonna have to take this out and like these. So obviously I don't want any holes going down because that's gonna let some moisture in and possibly even full liquid. So got this Loctite. It's a foam that you spray in, and it's gonna be it's a high density, so really can just, it's really strong. Sorry, my brain's not working. But it's also super flexible, which is a big thing because this van is gonna be rocking. It's gonna be going on dirt roads. The torque is gonna be pretty intense. So I wanted something that wasn't gonna crack, but also it withstands all the elements, which is huge. So I'm gonna put this in the holes first before I put the primer down. And then I gotta let that primer dry. So I'll start working on other projects, but that's what we're doing right now. Okay, so for the primer, I'm gonna use a Rust-Oleum because there was rust. I did get most of it, but it's just little bits here and there, you know? So I'm gonna start in the front, really just start spraying down a good layer. I got 2 of them. Hopefully that'll be enough. And then it needs about, I think it's an hour or so to dry. Let's see, 15 to 30 minutes to touch to handle, 1 to 2 hours. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna do this, and then I'm gonna start making other stuff while I'm waiting for it to dry. We'll start this now. Okay, so ran out of primer and I bought 2. I thought it would be enough. Honestly, I think it was 2.5 cans to do the whole thing. But I finished the first can, and then after I started about, I don't even know, like an 1/8 into the second can, it just stopped working. I tried a few things, it just wasn't spraying anymore. So Dad found a few primers down in the basement that I could use. One of them still didn't work, but he brought up a few. We have a few different colors. We got some silver, light gray, dark gray, and like a blue gray. So, little interesting looking, but it's all on the bottom. It's gonna be underneath the subfloor and underneath the actual floor as well, so no one will ever see it. It's just to protect the metal itself. So I'm actually pretty happy that it's done. We're gonna let this dry for a while. And time to get started on the next thing. All right, so I'm back. It's now March 27th. I left here in January to go back to Hawaii, work a bit, and then I started traveling for 2 months. So I went to Australia, Bali, Singapore, Dubai, Istanbul, and Cappadocia. And I just got back 2 days ago. So now it's time to get back to work. Got a lot of work to do, so I've been dreaming about it since I've been gone, trying to get back to this, so let's get started. So the next step is going to be, we were getting ready for subfloor, which we still are, but I just remembered I wanted to add some kill mat. So I had some shipped in. Kill mat is just sound deadening pads. So we're going to cut this up. Really only going to do 25% of the floor. Gonna cover the tire wells 100% because that's where most of the road noise is gonna come from. And then whatever we have left out of here, I'll put on like the large panel without the window, some of the walls, some of the roof. And really it's just to soak up and absorb that vibration. So that'll really help make this a lot quieter of a ride. Okay, and I decided to put the covers back on because they had this wool insulation, and I think it's just gonna help not only insulate but also really keep the noise level down. So I put the deadening fully on and then just snap this right back in. So both will be covered. I think that'll really hold down the noise even more, and then we're gonna put the subfloor around it to hold it down. And let the planning for the framing of the subfloor begin. We have it all done. everything fits in super snug. So the thought is, it's all loose right now. I gotta pick it all up, take tape off and everything. My floor is not perfectly flat, so we're gonna have to shim while we're gluing and trying to get it all situated. But this is a great start. I've also lined up with Sharpie on both sides of these middle pieces because they're able to float around a little bit. So I just drew a line just to really show where everything goes. And now everything's super snug and cut to the right size. So I'm super stoked. Feels good to be getting this stuff done. Now that I got all the framing in loosely, it's time to get ready to make the measurements for all of my insulation that's gonna go in between the pieces. We're gonna do this, get this cut, and put it all in before I glue down all of the framing and put it in for the final piece. Okay, so I've got the easy rectangular pieces down. And before it gets dark, I'm just gonna try to do this middle piece, but we have this that's kind of a little difficult. So what we're gonna use is a contouring gauge. So basically I pushed this up onto it and then I measured exactly where that started, which was 9 inches. So then I was able to line it up and get a rough outline of what that was like. So now I'm just gonna have to get from where that pole ends to the end of the insulation and line it all up, cut that piece out, and we're done. Makes it way easier. Alrighty, good morning. I'm gonna continue where I left off last night. Just gonna finish off the insulation for any of the wheels. And then I've decided there's a little lip out where the framing doesn't go, where it's still flat near the step-ups. I'm just gonna make a little square to put insulation there as well. And then we're done with that, and it's time to glue everything. Okay, now the moment of truth to see if this is gonna go in and not. It honestly looks good. No way. Oh, it's so snug, that's perfect. Okay, now that everything is sized to what it needs to be, we gotta take everything out and gonna have to start getting everything ready to glue the wood pieces down. And then once those are pretty well glued, we can then glue down the insulation, and we're gonna weigh everything down and let it dry for a little bit. Okay, so it's time to start gluing. We're gonna work with the backside first, closer to the driver, just because that's where our ridges are a lot more flat compared to back here. It used to be a moving vehicle, so kind of got beaten up a little bit. So we should be fine up there. Maybe only need like 1 or 2 shims, where back here it's gonna be a lot more. Shims are just like these little pieces of wood just to make everything level. I'll use them normally for windows, doors, stuff like that. So gonna get that started. We got liquid nails. We're trying not to put any screws down into the floor. So we're gonna glue it, weigh it down, let it hold for a day, and then take the weight off, see if it's rising at all. If it doesn't rise, then we can put the plywood on top and finish off the flooring.
Now that we have all the framing glued and weighed down, we took the original matting that came with the van and laid it over my plywood to trace out the cuts for the subfloor. This step makes it so much easier to get your plywood to the exact size you need without making all those meticulous measurements, and really saves you a lot of time. Alrighty, so now Friday, next day. What we're gonna be getting going is gonna finally cut out the plywood for the subfloor. And then once that's all cut, you could take some of these weights off, glue down the insulation, and then foam the edges. Once that dries, we'll cut away the excess foam, and then we can put that onto there and screw it in. So it's all cut. And basically, this is where I'm gonna be living. This is my bed. We got a little chair here, a couch here, and my kitchen. Now the big thing is to see if it fits perfectly. But yeah, this is it. And now it's time to put some insulation in and foam around it. Get that started, and once all that's glued in, foamed, and I can cut the excess of the foam away, which I'll show you the process, we can then start putting this down onto it and nailing it down. Okay, so just a bit of a small hiccup, nothing crazy, but basically you saw how we're gonna have the layout of the plywood. We're gonna have two long ones, and so they're gonna meet on this one and they're gonna end on this one. But we didn't set this up where from there to there is 48 inches. 48 inches actually ends right about here, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to add a brace that goes here so we can have that support where that plywood ends, so there's not a bit of a flex wherever you step, especially since the step up's gonna be right here. So we definitely want support here. So we're gonna put a piece here. One thing though that makes this a little difficult are these ridges. They're not flat right where the 48 inches. So what we're doing, the height of this is 3/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna cut multiple 3/8, and we're gonna act as if they're shims. So glue 3/8 pieces here, and then on top of that will be a solid 1-inch piece that goes across and connects. So then we'll be able to end our plywood right about here, and then I'll just cut a piece from the plywood to cap off the end, and that way it'll be fully supported. So not too big of a deal, but just gonna do that right now just so we really have that support we need.
Okay, so basically now with this in, let it dry. The only thing I really have to change is I have to find the measurement of the inside length and just cut that little piece off from the insulation that I had set. And then this little gap that we have, I'm just gonna put spray foam in it. That'll be plenty good. So yeah, now we have a little spot that will be able to support where the plywood ends, and then we just gotta make a cap right there. So now this is all hardened. I got a longer knife so I can really just get as flat as possible to it. So first section is glued and screwed in, and it is solid. There's no flex anywhere. So now onto this piece. I'm stoked. Yeah, okay. This is not gonna take too much longer. So basically I'm just gonna do a dry set. I'm gonna bring in that piece that's cut, place it in, make sure everything's fitting right, because like when we fit this one, we had to trim a bit on that side and on this side on both of them. So just gonna check on that. It's less things that we'd really have to trim around, so not too worried about that. Awesome. Okay, so I just cut this little piece, and we're just gonna slide it in. Perfect. Now just to foam the edges, just to solidify everything completely, cut away the excess after it dries, and we are done. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of my subfloor. This process I had been dying to finish since I started it before my travels back in January, and then didn't even get to finish it till I got back at the end of March. But we finished it, and it brings me one step closer in my van build. If you have any questions about the subfloor process, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. Until next time, see ya.